the record show I'm not wearing pants. Oh, yeah. So upcoming Friday nights, me and the degenerate boys that we are, we're coming back with the betting show.
You look at the way he bounces off tacklers, the way that he keeps his eyes downfield, his vision, his ability to find holes, his pass-catching ability, right? Because he had...
In my lifetime, I'd put him at probably around the 2 area with, again, the only other person up there being King Ricky.
Anthony Richardson or Caleb Williams at the 111.
Yeah.
So just hit us.
I have to watch the beginning again, and I hope that little space between the intro and like starting and the timer starting picked up what you said.
I
don't
wasn't sure if you heard what I said.
I heard bits and pieces of it. Repeat what you said.
Oh, no, I refuse. The audience doesn't need to imagine that I'm not wearing pants under this.
Oh, you. I thought you said me. I was like, I'm wearing pants.
Oh, no, not at all.
I almost didn't, though.
Yeah, there's no getting up to go to the bathroom in this one.
Ooh, yeah, that's going to be rough. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of BSing Sports, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. Here, I am one of your hosts, Ryan J. Swift. You can find me on Twitter at BSing_sports. That's BSING_sports. It is right there, actually. The little white box right there. Here with me, as always, for Dynasty Fantasy Football content is my co-host, Mr. JJC.
Mr. Jacob James, pantsless wonder himself, Krogan. Yes.
Gonna have to make something out of that. I didn't realize it till I said out loud, but you have the same initials as my grandfather.
Well, probably was an awesome dude if we're being quite
Joseph
honest. Here.
James Cavill.
Joseph James. That's the
Yeah, so in this episode, we're gonna first cover that Jake's not wearing pants.
Yes. Check.
Got it.
Done.
Now that the NFL offseason is pretty much winding down from a transactional standpoint, obviously some veterans who are still on the market will probably sign with teams during training camp and things of that nature. But for the most part, it's over. We've been through free agency. We've been through the NFL draft. My dog is making a ton of noise behind me. We're going to talk about the individual biggest winners, biggest losers from the offseason, and some of the trades we've seen in the last month and a half or so. Jake, so who is your number one biggest winner from the NFL offseason in terms of dynasty value?
My number one biggest winner in terms of dynasty value. That is, and no shock here, ladies and gentlemen, the boy Bo Nix is my number one fantasy winner here. And, I mean, it's pretty simple. They went out, got an elite tight end when healthy in Evan Ingram. We saw what he can do.
Whoa, hold up. Really? Dude.
Man, Doc's having the time of his life over there.
It's allergy season, and for those of you that are listening and own pit bulls, you know exactly what that means. Yeah. So, elite.
2 years ago, he had 100 catches, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, that's easy to do when you get 140 targets 3 yards from the line of scrimmage.
And with Denver's offensive weapons, you think he's not going to get that?
Well, I mean, they must have great weapons considering who your winner was.
Yeah, no, with Cortland Sutton there, and then them drafting RJ Harvey to be a stud. And then third-round pick Pat Bryant, who is going to be the Michael Thomas reincarnated. Like, I mean, what more do you want?
We are getting this show started right, ladies and gentlemen. Jake couldn't help himself.
We haven't done a video in a while.
Player one, if I had to guess, because you haven't said it out loud yet, player one must be Bo Nix.
I did say Bo Nix. I started off with Bo Nix.
Okay. I didn't realize you'd started with Bo Nix. Once I heard where it was going, I just kind of Then you
You
said
did say player
Evan
one,
Ingram
right?
elite, and I was like, I don't even think Bo Nix is the first or second biggest winner on his own team.
That is fair. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. I get
I
it.
think Evan Ingram's the second biggest winner on the Broncos.
I think Evan Ingram. I think the Broncos just in general are Super Bowl bound, so they are just fantasy football winners. All I mean, you could do 1, 2, 3, and Bo Nix, Evan Ingram, R.J. Harvey. Like,
Well, my number 2 was R.J. Harvey, but for the sake of the topic, I will say that one of my biggest winners from the offseason is R.J. Harvey. This is a guy who I talked about heavily on the prospect show as a guy I really liked, a guy that I got the chance to watch at UCF with insane pass catching upside, going to an offense with a play caller who loves to throw the ball to running backs. Sean Payton teams, it's well documented that they are consistently in the top 5 in terms of targeting their running backs, and that is exactly what R.J. Harvey does very well. You could see some Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime spell on early downs, but I think that R.J. Harvey is now set up for success in a role that he will have just pass with flying colors. I think that there's definitely some top 12 upside. I know a lot of people are turned off by the fact that he's 24 years old already, but the reality is you're acquiring him at the back end of the first round, so you're probably a contending team already, especially if you're getting running backs. And he's got about 4 years left until he turns 28. So you can get 3 to 4 good years out of R.J. Harvey if everything goes the way that we anticipate it to. So I think R.J. Harvey getting that round 2 NFL draft capital ahead of guys like Dylan Sampson, ahead of guys like Caleb Johnson, I think that's big. I think he's a big winner going to an offense that's going to do him a lot of good. And his ADP climb from pre-NFL draft to post shows that.
don't hate it. Don't hate it at all. Oh, man.
My real number 1 winner of the NFL offseason in terms of dynasty value, and I don't necessarily think it's gone up so much, but I do think that's because he was already previously very insulated. It's Caleb Williams. Additions of Ben Johnson as head coach, additions of Rome Odunze gaining another year under his belt, additions of Luther Burden, additions of Colston Loveland. So the offense is just absolutely flooded with potential. DJ Moore is still there, of course, obviously anchoring down as the wide receiver 1 for now. I know there's a lot of rumors that he's going to get traded. I'll believe it when I see it. And there's also your guy, Cole Kmet, who is still there. So there are quite a few weapons and not a strong running game from Chicago. They really didn't do a whole lot in the running back room. Obviously, they drafted Kyle Monangai in the 7th round out of Rutgers. But outside of that, it's still DeAndre Swift, whose strength is pass catching. So curious to see how the rest of the offseason may go for them. Jake, what do you view Caleb Williams as a winner, a loser, neutral? What is your take on
No, I definitely think he is benefiting, but I mean, Cole Kmet, serviceable tight end. Keenan Allen, just as good, if not better, than Luther Burden. So really, not much has changed, except Ben Johnson coming in, installing his offense. And so I want to see what Caleb Williams can do with it.
See, Keenan Allen's interesting because you say Keenan Allen's just as good, if not better, than Luther Burden. And while from a real-life perspective, I feel like that his finesse and route running that he has displayed over the years I think he's better at that than Luther Burden. I don't necessarily think that Keenan Allen does anything that is not replaceable by a mid-level guy. He's not going to stretch the ball downfield. He's not going to do much outside of playing from the slot and running shorter routes and kind of getting himself open. Quite frankly, the way that he gets schemed into an offense probably more so is along the lines of a tight end. And Colston Loveland is much more explosive after the catch than Keenan Allen is. So I feel like that they probably more so replaced Keenan Allen with Colston Loveland, just strictly based on a skill set and a utilization point of view rather than Luther Burden. But I do understand what you're saying and the fact that Luther Burden seems to be the guy who's going to take over the primary slot role.
Fair enough. Still think Cole Kmet could have done what Loveland's going to do, but whatever. I mean, whatever. I'm not an NFL exec. I don't pick teams here.
Hey, man, there is something about either Cole Kmet that Ben Johnson didn't like or something about Colston Loveland that he really loved. So either way, I'm just following the river here.
I mean, supposedly there was a bunch of teams trying to trade up to get Loveland. So
I liked Loveland more than you did. I didn't like him like top 10 draft capital that much. That kind of surprised me.
Yeah, the rumor mill going around was just everybody needed him. Everybody.
That is an interesting play there. So who is your number 2 winner of the NFL offseason?
My number 2 winner here, and this is going to make me throw up saying it, but it is Geno Smith.
Okay.
Look, Geno Smith is reunited with his favorite head coach, the one that let Russell Wilson go. And not only that, Geno Smith gets the number 1 running back in the draft, Ashton Jeanty. He gets the best tight end in football, Brock Bauer. And his wide receiver cast, they just went in second-round draft capital on Jack Besh.
Who was one of your guys.
One of my guys. Love him.
Is or was is the real question now that he's a Raider.
He's still one of my guys. I actually do have a share of him, too.
Oh,
So-
you were adamant about avoiding him. Must have been good value there.
Yeah, I think I got him with the 209 or something. Which is like, yeah, I can't pass that up.
Yeah, no, not for a guy who's borderline top 50.
Yep. And so you get all that. And I think you go from Kenneth Walker, DK, JSN, and Lockett, and you don't change much, but you get your head coach back. And I think that is a big deal for him.
I think potentially an even bigger deal that I didn't hear you mention was he got a fucking bag.
Oh, he did get the bag. Yeah.
He got paid.
That is 100% everything that the Raiders do. They just give people money for no fucking reason. They give subpar.
Tom Brady must have signed that trade somehow, some way. So he must like Geno Smith too.
Nah, dog.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
You think Tom Brady actually gets that much?
No.
That much pull?
I'll be honest with you. I don't even. So please don't take what I'm saying out of context. Head coaches are obviously heavily involved in the draft process. I don't even think they get as much say as we think they do. Like
Depends on the coach. I think it depends on the coach.
I think, yeah, it's got to depend on the organization. Obviously, again, there is a say. There is some collaboration. But ultimately, when that clock starts ticking down, it's not up to the coach on who to draft. It's not his job.
No, but I think there's a lot of pre-draft, like,
dude, the home
tomfoolery going on that they give their input.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's probably huge disagreements. And if I had to guess, it probably comes down to okay, here are the guys we can realistically get in this range. We're looking to move to this range. We're looking to move back to this range. I'm sure there's probably plan A, B, C, D, E, and F for every single draft pick. But I wouldn't even be surprised if the number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward the Titans' number 1 overall pick was being shopped, and they probably just didn't get an offer that moved the needle enough for them to move off the ability to draft Cam Ward. So,
fair enough.
My player 3 biggest winner of the NFL offseason is Isaiah Pacheco. I thought for sure the Chiefs were a slam dunk to take a day 2, even an early day 3 running back And I'd have been like, yep, after watching Pacheco last year, his job's cooked. He's done, gone. Instead, all they drafted was Brashard Smith, who was a converted wide receiver, brought back Kareem Hunt, who was 150 years old. None of that tells me that they feel like Pacheco is not the guy in their backfield, at least a 1A. I know Kareem Hunt had his moments last year when Pacheco was hurt, but they must think that, either Pacheco is recovering really nicely from his injury that he had last year and that he can be the guy again. I thought the Chiefs were a slam dunk to replace him, and yet he's looking like he's going to be penciled in, like I said, at worst, the 1A going into an offense that, pretty good year in, year out.
And I think him being a year removed from the injury is going to be good. I like this pick personally. I did just trade for Pacheco in a league.
That was an interesting trade, and we don't have it on our list to discuss, but good job, bud.
I thought I did pretty good there.
I thought you did really good. Spencer Rattler for Isaiah Pacheco. Granted, it's a super flex league, but I don't think the market thinks Spencer Rattler is the starter.
No, not at all. And that's we were just talking back and forth on it, and he was just like, I want Shador or Spencer Rattler. And I saw the or in there, and I was like, alrighty then. And just center, and he just
Dude, Shador Sanders could end up, or not Shador Sanders, Spencer Rattler could end up being the next Tom Brady, and I still would have done that deal at that time 10 times out of 10 because, all I'm saying is if Spencer Rattler was that good, they wouldn't have spent a top 40 pick on Tyler Shuck.
Well, to be fair, like I said on our last podcast, I think it's the brain. I think it's what Kellen Moore wanted was his guy to be smart and be able to run the offense. And we all know Spencer Rattler has a tendency to want to go off script, not run within the offense, like what the offense is giving him. Or what the defense is giving him, I apologize. And so I think that's kind of why they went in. But I also don't hate it because homeboy can't stay healthy. Shout, that is. Or Shuck, whatever. However you pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
Shuck. Yeah. Can't stay healthy. He's older than Bo Nix.
Now, I think that the age thing's a little overblown because at the end of the day, quarterbacks pretty easily last until their mid-30s anymore. But Christ, Derek Carr was 35 when he retired. Kirk Cousins is still in the league. Stafford's still in the league.
Rest in peace, Derek Carr.
Yeah, sure. But
hey, we need to find a new tier for him. We had the Derek Carr tier.
We did have the Derek Carr tier. We can still call it the Derek Carr tier until somebody becomes the next Derek Carr. Watch it be Tyler Shuck. Wouldn't that be something?
Hey, man, as long as Shuck is throwing the ball to Olave, I don't care. That's all I need in life because I went and invested heavily in Olave this year.
I don't think he's a bad buy low, especially because they really didn't add any targets.
No.
They're just running it back with Olave and Shakir. Now, granted, this team doesn't Shaheed. Granted, this team doesn't actually have the money to do anything, but
not a single dime to their name. They've just been kicking that bucket down the road.
Yeah, it's like if you look on like Spo Track or Over the Cap or something, and you see the Saints like payroll and like cap hits like years down the road, it's like -70, -80, -50. It's like, damn, dude, y'all are poor 3 years into the future.
Not going to be able to get anything done.
But anyway, back to Pacheco.
Yeah. Back to reality here. I like your Pacheco pick. I like Pacheco. I hate that he plays on the Chiefs, but I try and let that bias not stop me. And plus, I need a running back, and Pacheco for Spencer Rattler just seemed,
dude,
a dream. It's those dream trades you just when other people trade, and you're like, why don't I get those offers? And then you finally get one, and you're just.
I saw you put in the chat, someone please solve my running back problem, trade completed. And you were like, problem solved. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, this must have been, I was like, Jake got fleeced. There's no way. I go into the app and I look at it. And I think my exact face was. I was dumbfounded. And you know what? Spencer Rattler is now going to turn into like the next Josh Allen.
100%. I traded him away. He's going to be a top 10 quarterback this year.
That's obviously all satire for those of you listening. But who is your last big winner from the NFL offseason?
You know what? I'm just going to keep it here with the keeping it here with the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I see that.
And honestly, you could just say every single one of the AFC West teams improved in every fantasy aspect that you can think of. But with that little caveat here, give me Justin Herbert here on the rise. They went and got him a bell cow stud on top of Najee Harris. They got Omari and Hampton. They went out, spent some draft capital on our boy Trey Harris, who we both like. Sorry, Quentin Johnston. Move over. There's a better receiver in town. Ladd McConkey, I don't think takes a hit here. But he just has more people to catch the ball and not drop it like Quentin Johnston. And to me, that's just huge. Because people are going to load the box for those big bell cows. And he's finally going to have Trey Harris go over the top and be able to catch a football.
So, interesting fact. And I'm just reading the facts here. You guys can interpret this however you want. So you talked about Najee Harris. You talked about Omarion Hampton. So obviously the ground game's looking good there. Trey Harris addition, love it. You know, they did add Will Dissly as well. And it seems like after the first 5 or 6 games of last year, John Harbaugh kind of realized that he has a very good quarterback. So you'll see a lot of throwing, a lot more than we anticipated. But also, fun fact, this is not an Omarion Hampton comment, so that's good. The Chargers applied the unrestricted free agent tender to running back J.K. Dobbins, who remains eligible to sign with any team. Dobbins will now still count against the compensatory formula if he signs with another team before training camp opens in July, but the Chargers retain his exclusive negotiating rights if he doesn't. So if J.K. Dobbins does not sign with another team before training camp opens in July, he's a Charger too, which makes it a very, very messy backfield for the LA Chargers. And that for at least the first year until Hampton obviously assumes control of the backfield in year 2, that would put me off from just about any running back in redraft formats.
Doesn't matter. I'm just ready to see Justin Herbert do his thing. Balls on target, and his receivers catch him.
And I realized that the point I was making had absolutely nothing to do with Justin Herbert or what the hell you were talking about, but it is an opportunity for me to talk about the fact that J.K. Dobbins got the unrestricted tag about a month ago, and nobody's really said anything about it.
Fair enough. I was like trying to figure out how we were going to tie that in.
There's absolutely just no tie-in whatsoever to J.K. Dobbins and Justin Herbert, what you were talking about versus what I was talking about, except for the fact that there's the Chargers.
Radio.
Just like me in the last minute or so, biggest losers. But this is from the NFL offseason.
NFL offseason.
My first big loser from the NFL offseason is Packers wide receivers from a dynasty.
The entire lot.
Value. Matthew Golden is the highest drafted wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers in 23 years. And right after the draft, it was reported out that the Packers had a conversation with Jaden Reed and said, this will not affect your number 1 status on our team. And I say, bullshit. Not saying that Golden's necessarily going to be the number 1, but you now have Golden, you have Dobbs, you have Wicks, you have Reed. You have Kraft. You have a team that runs the ball quite a bit with Josh Jacobs anyway. So I think that this is good for Jordan Love. It's another weapon in the tool belt. But the reality is I don't want anything to do with any individual wide receiver in Green Bay. I think I have one share of Dobbs because the way that I acquired him this offseason, he was essentially free in the deal that I got him. And I drafted one share of Golden because the value was nice at like 204. That's it. That's all I've got.
Okay. I don't hate it. Don't hate it one bit because I don't trust a single wide receiver on that team. And
The only two players I want from the Packers offense are Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs.
I don't even want Jordan Love. I want Josh Jacobs. That's it. Give me Josh Jacobs. That's it. That's all I want. No ifs, ands, or buts. Give me that man.
Yep. Who is your number one loser?
My number one loser, we talked about it. That's the boy Najee Harris. Okay? He signed the 1 year, $3 million option. Loved it. Loved the team he was going to. Was hoping that they drafted a running back in like the 3rd or 4th or 5th round. No, they decided to go first round, Amari and Hampton. And so to me, this is a two-headed monster of old school football. But he's not going to be as fantasy relevant as you want.
So, fun fact, the Chargers tendered an unrestricted back to J.K. Dobbins.
That would have been the best time to loop that in.
I didn't look that far ahead. I didn't have the forethought to see that.
So, if you have been listening, ladies and gentlemen,
if you just
what Ryan
right
said
now,
just adds on to Najee not being good.
If you just tuned in right now, back up like 5 minutes.
Jesus.
Dude. Oh, man.
Fucking Groundhog Day over here.
That was perfect.
Oh
50 first dates.
You're 10-second Tom. That's like...
How did I see your next guy make a comment to you about it pre-show, and I didn't even see this guy on the show sheet? Jesus.
Oh, my God.
Oh, man. What the hell am I doing? Oh,
okay, well,
boy, that's going to be a great TikTok clip back, by the way. So, yeah, Najee Harris is going to be joining the potentially 3-headed monster. Definitely 2. For Dynasty, I wasn't huge on Najee before the draft. I know we had talked about him. Like, if you were a contender, this is a great spot for him to be in. This is a guy you should probably invest in, especially because he had the highest paid year-to-year contract of any free agent running back this offseason. But Hampton getting first-round draft capital going there just absolutely – I mean, we're both Hampton guys. You're a little bit higher on him than I am, which is fine. That's a killer. That's a killer to his long-term value.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it just sucks. Just sucks.
Absolutely. So the next guy you and I agreed on, actually, we'll keep it short, sweet, straight to the point. It's Jerome Ford. Jake, why is Jerome Ford a huge loser?
I'm going to say this to the best of my ability. The Browns doubled down here. They said, first of all, we're the Browns, so we're going to do the most Browns things possible. We're going to spend second-round draft capital here on a running back, Quinshon Judkins.
That does a lot of the stuff you do, just better.
That I do?
No, that Jerome Ford does. They sat down Jerome Ford and said, we're going to draft a second-round running back who stylistically kind of plays like you, but a lot better at everything that he does.
And then they were like, we're going to double down on this. We're going to draft Dylan Gabriel and then Shador Sanders. And then, prior to Shador, we're going to draft probably a better, more complete back that we both love in Dylan Sampson.
Yeah, my heart was crushed when Dylan Sampson went to the
Browns. We were drinking a beer when it happened. You and I together, he does.
Not because he went to the Browns, but because 2 rounds earlier, the Browns had drafted Quinshaw Judkins. That shit broke my heart.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, was it the 4th round?
Yes, it was a day 3 pick, which is the most depressing thing ever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the 4th round was when the run of running backs kind of happened. So I don't hate it too much if you were taken in the 4th round, and that's totally okay with me in my eyes. But yeah, you just decided to leave there, buddy?
Dude, that was interesting. I clicked over to the tab with the show sheet, and then my whole screen turned white. Couldn't see anything.
Got too much going on there,
so yes, for the same reasons, pretty much we think that Jerome Ford is a loser and he's going into a contract year. So I would assume, just like Najee, he's one and done with the Browns.
Yep, Dunskies.
My player 3 is Tank Bigsby. This is because Travis Etienne, I believe, has this year and next year because the Jaguars picked up his 5th-year option, and he's a former first-round pick. So there's a little bit more investment there. All while drafting Bashal Tutin in the 4th round, who has blazing speed and has gotten some positive feedback so far. I know he fumbled on his first day of camp, and Liam Cohen addressed that situation. Talk about biggest losers. But yeah, I think Tank Bigsby's the odd man out of that 3-man rotation. Maybe not immediately, but I think by midseason he's the odd man out.
Yeah, I know we loved Tank Bigsby back in the day when he was a rookie. We'll agree to disagree. We could watch the tape. But, yeah, no. Honestly, the move here is, in my humble opinion, you keep Travis Etienne.
I bought Travis Etienne twice this offseason.
You keep him because I think he is better than both running backs. I think Tutin's just going to be a change of pace. And if Etienne stays healthy, I think he has a very big possibility of being a running back 1 this year.
That would be nice. I think that especially with the passing game potentially opening up and Travis Hunter being utilized out there could make that offense that much better.
Have you seen all the Travis Hunter hate?
Yeah, I don't really get it.
On X, I was just like, what's going on? They're not reputable sources here, but
no, it's just people throwing the same regurgitated clip up there of him running a comeback route and missing his spot, and people going, he stinks. It's just one video, from one day of camp.
Yeah, if you don't want him, I'll gladly take it.
Yeah, I remember when Jamar Chase couldn't catch the ball in preseason.
I do remember that.
Yeah, I'll never forget that.
What a good time that was.
Dude, yeah.
God, I should have traded for all the shares I could. Hindsight.
Yeah. So who's your last player that is a loser before we move on to trades that we've seen?
Look, this one's going to be a little interesting, controversial, whatever you want to call it. But Jameson Williams of the Detroit Lions is a big loser in my eyes.
Interesting. Let's hear this one.
Look, he has been off the field issues year in, year out. He has produced, but he has not produced at the superstar level of Odell Beckham to where you're allowed to do those off the field issues. He's not AB yet. You can't be doing that yet, kid. He needs to dial it back. But the Lions went out and said, hey, we're going to draft this guy by the name of Tesla in the 3rd round who does pretty much everything you do, except he's bigger. And so I think this is a big year. They lost Ben Johnson. I don't trust Jared Goff to get the ball to anybody because Ben Johnson isn't in his ear telling, hey, this is where you're going to throw the ball. Because Jared Goff is dog water. And I stand on that statement. I stand on it, stand true, and it ain't going to change.
That's crap because 12 months ago you were on this show talking about how Jared Goff was a must-have on your team.
Bullshit. Pull the tape back.
We are watching many a film after this episode.
Where is it? I know it's here.
Yeah, I definitely haven't had to clear out the library because we keep reaching max storage every time. But yeah, no, Tesla. That's that guy Elon Musk, right?
Yeah, no, he does the spaceship car thing.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
things, yeah.
yeah. He didn't do. He's not the submarine guy. He's the spaceship guy, right?
Spaceship guy, yeah. Submarine guy, Xbox controller, Kamblooey. I need a drink. Oh, this show has been one for the.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a stretch. Actually, I don't. First off, I think this is finally a good segue for me to talk about my opinions, not the segue that I had earlier with J.K. Dobbins where I missed a golden opportunity. But boy, that was massive L.
Sorry.
I don't think so. People are very concerned about Ben Johnson leaving Detroit and like what it does to like. Apparently, David Montgomery's not going to get any touches anymore. Amon-Ra St. Brown is not going to be good anymore. The Philadelphia Eagles have had 4 different offensive coordinators in 4 years, and nobody has said a peep about A.J. Brown's production. Nobody said a peep about Devontae Smith's production. The running backs that were there have all produced pretty well. The fact of the matter is, like, the meat and potatoes of the offense that exists is in place. Whoever comes in to fill Ben Johnson's shoes is going to add a couple of tweaks here and there. Dan Campbell, we think of him as just some motivational speaker. We forget that he's an offensive guy, right? He may not be the guru that Ben Johnson was or the fact that we give credit to him for, but do we really think that the whole offense is about to look entirely different after the last couple of years of them just, for the most part, running roughshod through the league and having one of the best offenses during that time frame? Hell no. Monty's still getting his. Amon-Ra St. Brown's still going to be a top receiver for fantasy. Jameson Williams, you know, he's a field stretcher, 58 catches over 1,000 yards. He has a skill set. Laporta's still going to be involved. The offense is going to be fine from a fantasy perspective. They will be fine. There will be a couple of tricks and things of that nature, but I think the Detroit offense is not somebody we should be fading because Ben Johnson is gone. That being said, I do think that if I had to pick one guy to be a loser, it is Jameson Williams, and I think that a lot of your reasons were correct. They do have to pay Jahmyr Gibbs here shortly. They do need to owe Sam Laporta some money here shortly. And I think that Jameson Williams as a field stretcher and not a guy who's consistently going to get targets probably has the most replaceable skill set in that offense. So I agree. That's a good one. I think you had to dig deep for it, but I do think that's a good one.
I was just trying to go off the wall, give people something to think about,
Yeah. I like that. Respect. Good pick. Trades we have seen. We got about 20 minutes left till the hour mark. We may or may not get through all these. I just uploaded some trades that have gone down since probably beginning mid-April, so right before the NFL draft till now. I didn't put dates to these trades, so some of them could have taken place prior to the draft. Would have been interesting. The very first trade we have is T. Higgins for Najee Harris and Xavier Worthy. Jake, break it down. Which side would you rather have and why?
Oh, I mean, I think this one is blatantly obvious now. I assume this was prior to the draft happening. I want T. Higgins. High power offense. He is the number 2, but he produces when healthy. Najee Harris, handcuffed back right now. Worthy has a ton of competition right now, in my eyes. So,
a ton?
Rashid Rice, Kelsey, Hollywood Brown still there. Like, a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I do think T. Higgins is probably now one of the most overvalued dynasty assets and an easy sell. There are a lot of for 5 years, people have been sitting here and saying T. Higgins is like a wide receiver 1 in dynasty. We've heard it.
He is.
Doesn't stay healthy consistently, and quite literally everything went perfectly for the Browns trio to succeed and hit their ceiling from a fantasy perspective. Like, is it realistic to expect Joe Burrow? Trio? Yeah, Burrow, Chase.
Yeah, you said Browns trio, and I was like,
okay, Bengals trio. Thank you, sir.
Slightly confused.
Yeah, so everything went perfect for them to be in position to have hit their ceilings. Like, this is T. Higgins' stride. This is as high as the ceiling goes, and it's not going to get any better than this. So Joe Burrow is not likely to repeat throwing 40-plus touchdowns. Back-to-back 40-plus touchdown seasons don't happen very often in the NFL. Not saying he doesn't have the ability to do it. I'm just saying that's not something you should bet on. There will be a more suitable run game now that Chase Brown's going in as the de facto 1A at worst. The Bengals defense was dead last in the league last year, and you can't get worse from being dead last. So this is as bad as it's going to get for the defense, in turn as good as it's going to get for the offense. I don't think that there's any possible way that that passing attack could be any better in future years than they were this year. Maybe the same, but not better.
Okay. I don't hate it.
Yeah. So that being said, because Najee is now behind Omarion Hampton, or at least Hampton exists in LA, I probably lean Higgins, but that's pretty close. If I'm contending, I would actually be okay taking the Worthy side. I do think Worthy's probably going to bring wide receiver 3 finish with some wide receiver 2 upside sprinkled in. I don't think that he is super affected by Hollywood Brown, and I think Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce are more so going to compete for the same targets than Xavier Worthy will.
Okay.
This next one is spicy.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm just like, that's
So we have, on one side, Team A receives Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, and a 26th third. Team B receives Brian Thomas Jr., Ashton Genty, and a 2026 second. I think, to me, this is actually fairly easy.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is fairly easy as well. You take McCaffrey.
Okay. So we think it's fairly easy for different reasons.
So Mooney looked good. Finally had a quarterback that gave him the ball. Finally showed out. McCaffrey has the ability to...
Time out. You're on the wrong trade.
No. Oh. I skipped one.
So I will read the trade again to help Jake out. Look who's the biggest loser now.
Yep. I'm going to eat that one.
Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, and a 2026 third for Brian Thomas Jr., Ashton Genty, and a 2026 second.
Yeah. Still simple. You still going McCaffrey and Chase?
I'm not.
Really?
I'm not.
See, I'm not
and
a big
I understand
BTJ
why
fan.
People would, because the upside on that side of the trade is as high as it's going to get.
I don't know. I still take Chase over BTJ. I think BTJ regresses tremendously this year.
I do agree with Chase over BTJ. I think
it's
interesting that you
Genty,
think
at best, Genty is going to be McCaffrey. And so
prime healthy McCaffrey, yes. In terms of fantasy points per game, yes. However, Christian McCaffrey at worst is going to play no games for you this year. That's a very real possibility.
That is true. That is the real of real possibilities. Yeah.
I think from a value perspective, Genty over McCaffrey by quite a bit.
Okay.
Because if you think about having the 101 in a draft and you offer CMC for the 101, that's going to be a laughed at trade. Probably need another first to clear that value. And I would say that you need another first on top of BTJ to get to Chase. So to me, this is like a second versus a third as far as the value goes. So again, I totally understand. If I'm competing, I don't mind taking a swing on McCaffrey, but the reality is you have to be very prepared for the fact that this is a guy who has missed 7 or more games in 4 of the last 6 seasons, which is a tough pill to swallow if he does it again.
It is a tough pill to swallow. That is for sure. But I believe, okay?
The next trade is the one that Jake was talking about.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones and DK Metcalf for Christian McCaffrey, Darnell Mooney, and Brashard Smith.
This one to me, still McCaffrey.
I'm taking McCaffrey on this side.
Yeah.
I don't think DK and Aaron Jones offer anywhere near enough value or upside to that I should at least take the swing on McCaffrey with.
Yeah, no. I don't hate DK Metcalf at all. I like Aaron Jones, but Aaron Jones did get banged up at the end of the year. He is extremely old. DK Metcalf is going to do what he did at Seattle, but in Pittsburgh now. On the other side, you have McCaffrey, who has the potential to be the number 1 running back. Mooney, who I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong here, played better than Metcalf last year on a fantasy basis.
It was pretty close if you look at the points per game.
Okay. And then you get a fun little, what is it, Brashard Smith? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah. You get a fun little 7th rounder for the Chiefs. Where'd you go?
I'm back.
You good there, Chief?
Yeah, I don't know. My computer's acting a little funky. It's kind of weird.
Holy cow, I didn't realize how many trades you put in here.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. So I do agree with you, though, on the CMC side, and the fact that Mooney, from a points per game perspective, is being a little underrated right now. Could potentially make him a fairly easy buy. We should preface before we continue that all of these trades are 12-team, Superflex, PPR, tight end premium, 0.5 being the tight end premium on most of these, 0.75 on a couple of them, which the difference there doesn't move the needle for me at all. So this next trade, we have the GOAT, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Drake London for Emeka Egbuka, Isaac Tesla, a 2026 first, and a 2026 second.
It still makes me laugh. That
What? The GOAT
somehow got in there.
CEH was involved?
Yeah.
I don't know what – I want to know what the negotiation was that he got landed in the deal.
Yeah.
It was just like, and throw CEH on top.
I need literally the least possible fantasy impact here, but I need a player.
Yeah,
You're getting 2 players. I need 2 players.
That's what it was. Nobody wanted to drop anybody, although whoever was acquiring Egbuka and Tesla could have just ended up dropping CEH and nobody would pick them up.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's the funniest thing in the world.
So which side do you like here? The Drake London side, or excuse me, the Clyde Edwards-Helaire side, or the Isaac Tesla side?
I'm not going to lie. I'm taking 100% the Mbuka here. Tesla.
Okay.
Second.
100%. So if you're contending or rebuilding, doesn't matter. You're taking that side.
Yep.
Okay. If I'm rebuilding, yeah, I'm taking that side for sure. If I'm contending, Igbuka's probably not giving me much this year. Tesla's probably not giving me much this year. And obviously 2026 picks are giving me nothing this year.
Even if I'm in, I have this, I don't understand it. It's some strange feeling in my soul. I have Emeka is going to put up Chris Godwin numbers.
This year?
Yes.
Dude, if that happens, I'll tell you who's a real winner of the offseason is Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, that another good one. Yep, that would have been a good one.
But yeah, if that happens, dude, that means Baker must have snapped.
I mean,
dude, this next one is a lot to process.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we've got Dak Prescott, Ricky Pearsall, the 112, the 310, and the 309 for Steph Diggs, Alvin Kamara, George Kittle, Anthony Richardson, a 2026 second, and a 2026 third. So when I look at a trade this big, the way that I break it down is I start crossing like values off from each side. So do you agree, Jake, that we can just like cross out the 310 and the 26 third?
Yeah.
Okay. The 112. Do you have anybody on the other side that's equal value to that?
Kamara.
You would pay the 112 for Alvin Kamara right now?
If I'm a contending team, yes.
Okay. So we'll cross out Kamara in the 112. So right now we're down to Dak Prescott, Ricky Pearsall in the 309 for Diggs, Kittle, Richardson, and a 26 second. Where are you at on Pearsall?
I think he has potential to be good.
Like, are you equal to Anthony Richardson on Ricky Pearsall?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So then Pearsall and Richardson cross out. So we're down to Kittle, Diggs, and a 26 second for Dak and 309.
Dak and the 309.
For Diggs, Kittle, and a 26 second.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say it prior. I think the Dak Prescott side of this wins.
Yeah, I like the Dak side here as well. There are a lot of old, crusty veterans and Anthony Richardson on that side. And truthfully, any single one of those players is like one semi-substantial injury away from losing all of their value.
Yeah, and never playing football again.
And Diggs also already had that injury. It's not guaranteed that he plays week one. And how many 31-year-olds do you know have recovered from ACL tears to bounce back and be superstars?
Exactly.
So I would also take the Dak side. I think he's a little hated for fantasy purposes only, Jake. I know you get on me every time I say that. And Anthony Richardson, I sold for a 26 second and a 25 third earlier in the offseason. I'm way out on him.
Oh, dude, you messed up. That's Josh Allen Jr.
We'll see. Josh Allen Jr. doesn't check himself out of games.
I 100% would never. He would never do that. But
next trade we've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Zach Charbonnet, the 108 and a 26 first for Devontae Smith and Jamar Chase.
To me, this is pretty simple. I'm going with St. Brown here.
Yeah, I agree with that.
St.
Yeah.
Brown, Charbonnet. The 108, you're getting Mbuka or any of these first-round guys. And then
Could
you get a
potentially
26
get
first on top of it.
Could
Like
potentially
Chase,
get either of the Ohio State running backs there too.
yeah. Chase to St. Brown, like, yes, everybody wants Chase, but it's not really a big difference. And then Devontae Smith, like anybody would trade the 108 for Devontae. Like they would want the 108. They would give up Devontae Smith in a heartbeat.
I would not personally. But the way that I view it is Zach Charbonnet in the 108 is probably right around what you would pay for Devontae Smith. And to go from Jamar Chase to Amon-Ra St. Brown is not a 26 first. It should be smaller than that. So, yeah, I'm taking the package with Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're getting probably 95 to 98% of the same wide receiver production or same ceiling. You're potentially getting, maybe a better floor and a couple firsts on top with a very nice handcuff running back. Yeah, I'm taking the Amon-Ra St. Brown side there. Next one is an interesting one. We maybe have time for one or two more. We have the 102 for Joe Mixon and the 108.
I'm taking Joe Mixon in the 108.
If I'm contending, I am.
Yeah.
The problem is if the 102 was that team's pick that they gave away, like they were the second worst team, I think this trade is problematic for them.
Yeah. No, I agree, but if you're looking to get out of the 102, you just had a string of bad injuries.
Some people don't view a huge difference between 102 and 108.
Honestly, I don't in this draft class.
Joe Mixon could make up that difference. So, yeah, if I'm contending, I'm taking Mixon in the 108. If I'm rebuilding, I want the 102 pretty easily. Next trade, we've got Kyron Williams for the 112 and the 203.
I'm taking the picks.
Taking the picks, huh?
Yeah, Kyron Williams hasn't signed his 10-year, or hasn't signed a contract with the Rams. And so I would go younger here, and you can probably get either RJ Harvey or you can get Caleb Johnson here on top of 203, so you can get another player for your team.
Don't you hate Caleb Johnson?
I do. But if you like him, you can get him.
Yeah. This is another one for me where it's if I'm contending, I'm taking Kyron. If I'm rebuilding, I'm taking the picks pretty easily.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. We have a couple more trades, but we are at the hour mark. We are going to start to wind this show down. Jake, thanks for coming on here, buddy. This was a pretty good show. Can't wait to talk more about J.K. Dobbins and where he's going to sign. It's going to be the biggest news all off season. And
where do you think he signs?
Where do I think he signs? Dude, I actually had a pretty good spot for him I was thinking about earlier. The Bears. It was the Bears. I think he goes to Chicago.
That would be an interesting pick.
I think part of the issue is teams are going to have to weigh whether they want to pay a draft pick to sign him, though, because as I read earlier, he's part of the compensatory log now, so teams are going to have to pay a draft pick to sign J.K. Dobbins, who is probably the only dude I've ever seen in my life come back from, an Achilles tear and an ACL tear? Now, Adrian Peterson did that too.
I feel like there's a big difference between Adrian Peterson and
J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, just a little bit. But do you have anything you would like to add, Jake, before we sign out for the day?
Yeah, fuck the Raiders. I feel like I hadn't said that enough today, and that just felt right.
Well, you had to talk good about two of their players, so please, wash your mouth out real good tonight.
I did. I hated how well I think everybody drafted in the AFC West this year.
Yeah, AFC West is going to be a competitive division, no doubt.
It's not going to be fun, but guess what? I got my Lord and Savior Bo Nix and the Defensive Player of the Year, Pat Surtain.
Yeah, you guys will be all right. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of BSing Sports, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. Have a good night. Go Birds.